Join us now to discuss Kevin Frey, Washington correspondent for Spectrum News, New York 1. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, Casey.
Nice to see you. So this is clearly a situation where the Trump administration, President Trump, want Americans to see what they are doing as they undertake carrying out what was, let's be honest, a campaign promise from Donald Trump. One of the things we're reporting here at CNN this morning is that many of these officials conducting these raids have been told to basically dress for the cameras, right? Yeah. So here's the reporting. Multiple federal agents assisting U.S. immigration officials with raids directed by the Trump administration have been told to ensure their clothing clearly depicts their respective agency in case they're filmed by members of the media, sources tell CNN. While it's common safety practice for agents conducting arrests to wear insignia clearly identifying themselves as law enforcement, even agents on the perimeter of operations conducted across the nation have been specifically instructed by their leadership to wear raid jackets to generate possible media attention, sources said. So how do you understand how this is different from what had previously been going on under the Biden administration?
Right. So, I mean, perhaps the clearest cut case as to, or the earliest example of kind of the playing to the camera aspect of all of this was when they utilized those military planes to try to send some of these migrants back to South America rather than just a regular civilian passenger sort of airline that are typically used. And so, if anything, it fits into this larger dynamic that Trump is certainly central to, which is straight out of central casting, looking for members of his cabinet that look good on TV, playing to the camera when it comes to his own experiences in reality television. The man knows how to operate. He knows how to operate within this media ecosystem, playing to the New York Post sort of headlines. And this is kind of the latest example of that.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more, too, about one of the things that we learned last week was that they were going to lift the guidance around essentially leaving churches and schools as sanctuary places where ICE did not go in and conduct raids. Tom Homan, the border czar, was asked about doing raids, particularly in schools, over the weekend. Let's watch what he said.
What criminals are hiding in schools? Look, middle schools, elementary schools. You going to go into those?
How many MS-13 members are the age of 14 to 17? Many of them. So, look, if it's a national security threat, public safety threat, and what you need to understand is a case by case. Name another agency, another law enforcement agency that has those type of requirements that they can't walk into a school or a doctor's office or a medical campus. No other agencies held to those standards. These are well-trained officers with a lot of discretion, and when it comes to sensitive location, there's still going to be supervisory review.
And we have reports here, too, at CNN that in one Atlanta suburb, there was an undocumented man attending church who actually was pulled out of the church during the service.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one dynamic that the Trump administration is now going to have to kind of walk this fine line on because, one, Trump clearly wants to play up for the cameras and be able to show that he's fulfilling his campaign promise. But at some point, it turns to the public could read this as being over the top, insensitive, and quite frankly terrifying, depending on how some of these scenes, extractions, arrests, etc., play out. You've seen Democrats on the Hill, for instance, really hone in on this sensitive locations concern, basically saying and arguing that it plays on and ultimately, at the end of the day, makes really fear being the dominating issue at play here. Not so much enforcement, but making people afraid.
Yeah, well, and I should note, our reporting is not that they went into the church, but rather that they came to it, and he was inside at the service, and he did come out when they went and asked for him by name. But still, it speaks to this fear question. The other piece of this, of course, is money. Lindsey Graham on the Sunday shows over the weekend, Senator Graham saying, you know what, we can't do everything we've promised we're going to do if we don't fund it. What is the latest on those negotiations in Congress?
It's still very much a we'll see. I mean, look, it's not even clear what exactly approach they have landed on, because is it the one big beautiful bill? Is it the two bill approach? Is it going to be taxes and immigration and everything else all combined? Or are they going to splinter it off? You talk to either chamber, they have different ideas of all of this. And part of it is because the margins are so incredibly thin on Capitol Hill that if there is one or two Republicans in the House, for example, they can veto the whole thing and make the whole thing explode. Then you throw in the idea of, do they try to attach fire aid or, for example, lifting the debt ceiling into this soup of legislative mishigas, and it's not clear exactly how this is going to land. There's clearly an intention to do something in the next couple months because they're going to need finances to back up what they're doing, but it's not clear how they're going to get there.
I think that might be the first use of the word mishigas on this show, so congrats to you for that. Kevin Frey, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, coming up here on CNN.